I'm often asked why I wanted to write a biography of Elizabeth Seton. I grew up Catholic. I always love saint stories. They're just so interesting and moving. And then I was an historian of the Revolutionary and Early Republic period, we call it. So say 1770s to 1820s, which is exactly when she lived. Turned out to be hundreds of letters and journals, letters to her, about her, that have been collected. Because she is extraordinary. She had an extraordinary devotion. She created this wonderful community. But she also is someone we feel like we can know. She was a mother, a wife. She worried about things. She worried about money. She had losses. So she is significant and also someone we feel that we can relate to, I think. I went to the archive. They were very welcoming. And I realized I could get to know her in the way an historian gets to know someone, through the letters, through receipts, right, through journals, as a woman. And then eventually down the road, I could try to understand her sainthood. But my first entry into her life was through her just existence as a young woman, as a mother, as a wife, as it emerged in these documents. But understanding how she's lived on through her spiritual daughters, I think, made clear to me some of what her spirituality in her life was, and made me feel that I could at least try to get some of that on the page. And as historians, we can offer that kind of context, the human and institutional context in which the teachings of the church are lived out or not lived out. I don't feel that historians are threatening in any way, or that we disenchant the world, right? To use that language. I feel that we can bring forth the human context, the human stories that are such an important part of the church. Elizabeth lived with loss. This is, most people did, right? Before the era of antibiotics and vaccinations and so forth, death really was a thief in the night, right? And any possible night it could show up. But she is plagued by it. So her mother dies very early. She loses her husband when she's barely 30, when she has 5 children. And before she loses him, he is clearly suffering from consumption, or what we would call tuberculosis. And as the daughter of a doctor, she knows all too well where this is headed. And she loves him desperately. It's clear this is a true love match. And she even tries to love people less. She says, I'm going to love within the bounds of moderation. So that she doesn't feel this awful loss, right? Or even before the loss, the uncertainty, right? The uncertainty itself was awful. And then later in her life, she lost 2 of her 3 daughters to tuberculosis. She does find a way not to harden her heart. Not to protect herself against loss, to see loss as a part of life. It sounds trite, but it's not easy, right? It's not easy to accept. And her own experience of just kind of brokenness makes her more and more gentle as her life goes on, right? This is somebody who is absolutely hungry to feel a kind of divine presence. And it turns out that Catholicism offers that to her through its art, through the Mass, which she's very moved by, through the culture of the saints, even through gestures. She feels that it is emotionally satisfying and that it provides presence in a way that the Protestantism that she had known in New York did not. And so, although she knows that this will be controversial back home in New York, she decides to convert. She also wants to devote herself to a life of worship and service. And Protestantism, interestingly, really doesn't offer that kind of opportunity for women at that time. I mean, she can envision that life within Catholicism in a way that she could not envision it within the Episcopal Church, for example. So she can't live the way she wants to live in New York, and she has come to the attention of clergy who realize that this woman is important, and she could become a vision of Catholicism that would be not alien, not threatening to the many Protestant Americans who just thought that this religion was kind of barbaric and a thing of the past. They set off in their wagon from Baltimore to this drafty stone house in Emmitsburg, and that's where the community that would become the Sisters of Charity is. I realized that, you know, when people think of a saint, and it's sort of understandable, you think of the figure of a saint, the completed saint, right? Someone who is serene, as if they were throughout their whole life the sort of model of virtue that they became. And what's great about Elizabeth Seton is she was funny, she was prickly, she got impatient with people. And I find that when people discover that she struggled, or she asked questions, or she changed her path, or that it wasn't just this clear stepping stone necessarily to sainthood in any way. The community that Elizabeth Seton founded, the American Sisters of Charity, in one way or another led to the creation of many other communities and congregations. And all of those communities lead lives of active benevolence, charity with all, is the way Seton put it. And it was actually a sister who sort of pointed that out to me, not charity toward, right? Charity with. It's a relationship. Neither party is the instrument of the other. And so that legacy is so vibrant and so ongoing, right? Through the sisters, through the lay associates, through the organizations. That it is just a marvelous testament to Seton. And most of these sisters whom I've met do feel they live in relationship with Elizabeth Seton herself also. They're her spiritual daughters.